25 years of economic reforms. The year 2016 being the 25th year of economic reforms initiated in the country, the issue has become extremely important. Whereas, with the icing over the cake in the form of 122nd Amendment Bill paving the way for goods and service tax, which may usher in a new era in the field, the significance of the issue has increased manifold. Talking of the significance, let us first find out the significance of the issue from the point of civil services examination. Significance. Given the diversity in the dimensions it touches, especially the first, second and third generation reforms and the impending fourth generation reforms in the labor sector, this issue touches a number of aspects of the syllabus of both preliminary and mains examinations, both directly and indirectly. Hence, there is a possibility of the issue, along with its associated phenomena like its impact on social life of India and the development parameters, etc., can be raised both in these examinations. The reforms. Background. Indian economy prior to 1991 was plagued by slow growth rate, bureaucratic red tapes, and financial crunches. Efforts to liberalize the economy were made earlier as well, specifically in 1966 and 1985. However, none of these initiatives were successful due to lack of political will. In fact, the efforts of 1966 were practically rolled back and the country took a hard stance towards a pro-socialistic setup, with nationalization of coal fields and banks subsequently. What is startling is, realizing the drawbacks, even China started to liberalize its economy in 1978, while we were still debating over the usefulness of state control. It needs to be mentioned here that during this period, when other economies in Asia, such as South Korea, Taiwan, Thailand, and Indonesia, clocked near about 9% growth rate, and even Pakistan managed a near about 5% growth rate, India was registering only 3.5% rate of growth, often dubbed as Hindu rate of growth at best. Twice during this period, the situation worsened to such extent that the government was forced to declare plan holidays in one occasion and adopt format of annual plans in the other. By 1985, the country started to face balance of payment crisis. By 1990, the situation worsened to such extent that the central bank refused to forward loans to the government, and the government of India was at the brink of defaulting on loans. The forex reserves depleted to such extent that the country was left with foreign exchange to support the essentials import only for 3 weeks. It was by this time that the government of India approached the IMF and the Bretton Woods institution brokered a bailout package for India and arranged soft loans, but only against the gold reserves of the country as collateral, which were kept as mortgage with Bank of England and Union Bank of Switzerland. Within a few days of this deal, the then government in power collapsed, a new government took charge. It was the budget of the new government, presented by the then Finance Minister of India Dr. Manmohan Singh on July 24, 1991, that is credited to kickstart the process of economic reforms in the country. The reforms. Crux. No power on earth can stop an idea whose time has come, said then Finance Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, quoting Victor Hugo, while presenting the Union Budget on 24th July 1991. And with these words started the long and painful process of economic reforms in India. The reforms was aimed at ending the license permit raj by decreasing the government intervention in the business, thereby pushing economic growth through reforms. The policy opened up the country to global economy. It discouraged public sector monopoly and paved the way for competition in the market. By 1991, India still had a fixed exchange rate system where rupee was pegged to value of a basket of currencies of major trading partners. It was on 3rd or 4th of July 1991 that the currency was devalued and efforts were taken towards making it convertible. By July 20th, the new trade policy and the new industrial policy were unveiled for the country. The budget presented on July 24th took all of these as factors and provided a holistic picture of reforms to the country. The reforms. 3 generations. The process of reforms witnessed till date in the country can be classified into 3 generations, with each generation paving the way for the next generation of reforms. The process started with first generation reforms. In order to provide a greater scope to private sector, these new policies introduced various policy changes regarding industrial licensing, technology upgradation, elimination of controls and restrictions, foreign capital, fiscal policy, rationalizing and simplifying the system of fiscal and administrative regulation, and export-import policy. These policy changes were brought with the sole intention to create a favorable climate for getting a big boost in private sector investment, which would, in turn, usher in rapid growth of the economy as well as pave the way for modernization of the economy. Accordingly, the new economic policy stressed on removing unnecessary restrictions in issuing licenses, in denying industrial licenses to MRTP companies, and in making adjustment of output to administered prices. Second generation reforms. In order to restore both internal and external confidence, the Narasimha Rao government initiated a good number of stabilization measures. These measures include tightening of monetary policy by raising interest rates, adjustment of the exchange rate of rupee by 22%, liberalization and simplification of foreign trade policy, reduction of fiscal deficit, and introduction of other reforms in economic policy necessary to bring a new element of dynamism to the process of economic growth of the country. The Government of India set certain macroeconomic targets in order to bring about structural readjustments to the economy. Since these are mostly factual in nature, hence we are not elaborating them here any further. You can get an idea on these in the matter provided along with this video. Third generation reforms. Presently underway, the four important facets of the third generation reforms the government is intending on advancing are: number 1, catalyzing competitive federalism; number 2, global competitiveness; number 3, infrastructure development; and number 4, innovation. Impact of reforms or liberalization. The impact of economic reforms has been varied and has been felt in as diverse fields as industries, commerce, service sector, and so on. Now, we need to take care of a reasonable number of these factors from the perspective of the examination, and we will try to do so here. Number 1, improvements in performance of the economy. The economy's performance in the post-reforms era has been quite impressive. The reforms started in the year 1991, and if one leaves out 1991-92, which was exceptionally a bad year, the average annual growth rate between 92-93 and 99-2000 was 6.3%, which peaked in the year 2006 with 9.6%. The absolute figures relating to national product at factor cost at current prices can be seen in table 1 in the matter provided along with this video. Number 2, wide choices of consumer goods and services. Economic reforms have resulted in a sea change in the standards of living and lifestyles of people. The benefits that have already accrued are enormous. Today one has a variety of choices to choose from with regard to many of the consumer durables like fridges, televisions, music systems, cars, etc. Foreign brands of many of the consumer durables are easily available. Due to cutthroat competition, the prices of consumer durables have either come down or remained static. The TV viewers today enjoy 24 hours news channels. These 24 hours news channels and other channels depend heavily on the advertising industry, which in turn depend on India's increasing transformation into a consumerist society. Easy availability of bank loans. In the pre-reforms era, getting bank loan from a bank was unthinkable for a common man. The scenario has completely changed today. The reforms carried out in the banking sector have led to easy availability of loans. Banks are running after customers today, requesting them to take loans. Lending rates have fallen. Computerization and installation of ATMs have brought sea change in the services being rendered by the banks. Indian banks have started giving European looks. The day is not far off when Indian banks may be preferred when compared to foreign banks. Growth in employment opportunities and better emoluments. Employment opportunities have tremendously increased due to coming up of many new domestic private companies as well as multinational companies. Many of the foreign companies are now outsourcing their jobs to India, thereby increasing the job opportunities available in the country. In 1991, many Indians were terrified that globalization would cost us millions of jobs. Today, American politicians are terrified that millions of their jobs are being outsourced to India. The latest business to be outsourced to India by the US is mathematics coaching. Health services such as pathological and radiological tests are also being outsourced to India by some countries now. The jobs that have come up in computer software and call centers could not have been predicted 20 years back. The economic reforms have not only increased the job opportunities in India, but have also raised the pay packages in many of the sectors, benefiting the youngsters from the middle class. This scenario has come up because the MNCs which have set up their plants or units in India pay much higher emoluments than what the domestic companies used to pay earlier. One important sector which has vastly expanded and has generated vast employment opportunities in the country after liberalization is the information technology. Other notable sectors in this connection are the telecom, automobiles, civil aviation, and electronics. Large reserves of foreign exchange. In the pre-reforms era, the country did not have large reserves of foreign exchange and therefore was not easily available for a person traveling abroad. The procedure for getting foreign exchange was very cumbersome and one had to run from pillar to post to get even a small amount of foreign exchange. There were widespread illegal transactions in foreign exchange. The situation has changed and today foreign exchange is easily available in any amount for persons traveling abroad. The removal of restrictions has also helped in eliminating black money generated as a result of illegal transactions in foreign exchange. This is mainly because of the tremendous increase in foreign exchange reserves of the country. The foreign exchange reserves increased from $5.8 billion, amounting to 2.5 months import bill in 1990, to $353 billion, providing an import cover for more than 10 months in 2015-16. Vast expansion of telecommunications. A notable revolution has occurred in telecom sector. In the pre-reforms era, this was entirely in the hands of central government and due to lack of competition, the call charges were quite high. Further, due to lack of funds with the government could never meet the demands for telephones. In fact, a person seeking a telephone connection had to wait for years before he could get a telephone connection. The service rendered by the government monopoly was also very poor. Wrong billing, telephones lying dead for many days continuously due to slackness on the part of telecom staff to attend complaints, cross connections due to faulty or ill-maintained telephone lines, obsolete instruments and machinery in the telephone department were the order of the day in the pre-reforms era. Today, there are many players in the telecom sector. The ultimate beneficiary has been the consumer. Prices of services in this sector have fallen drastically. Telephone connections are today affordable to everyone and are also easily available. Gone are the days when one had to wait for years to get a telephone connection. The number of telephone connections, which was only 2.15 million fixed lines in 1981, increased to 5.07 million fixed lines in 1991. As in 2016, there are 1058.01 million telephone connections, of which 24.81 million are fixed line telephones and 1033.20 million are cellular mobiles and WLL telephones. Wireless in local loop or WLL telephones and cellular mobile telephones were unknown in India before 1995. Cell phone charges have come down so much that today one can see even a common man going around with more than one cell phones in his hand. The private companies are giving various incentives to attract customers, a situation which is entirely opposite to the condition prevailing in the pre-reforms era when one had to wait for years to get a telephone connection. Similar types of stories can be seen in a number of other areas such as civil aviation, easier access to foreign technology, significant fall in poverty ratio, remarkable growth in foreign trade, regulated capital market, increasing foreign direct investment, easy availability of motor vehicles, expanding tourism, substantial growth in corporate sector, growth in tax revenue of central government, declining external debt, elimination of illegal transaction in foreign exchange, improvement in power supply, etc. If we try to discuss all these aspects here, the video will become unnecessarily lengthy, and given the factual nature of the discussion, we would suggest you to take note of these developments from the matter provided along with this video. Thank you.